You know that sound? I don't, because I'm not quite sure what music we've chosen yet or dynamic we've chosen before it gets to me. But it is the High Tech Podcast, folks. That's right. It is another week of the High Tech Podcast brought to you by Harness Tech, where we talk about technology, fun, learning, development, education, sometimes business. Sometimes we just, shoot the crap sometimes. Whatever we decide to do on the High Tech Podcast. It's kind of a free field of fun.
Sometimes it's like a pie of all the above. And you know what? It's pie, so it's got to be good.
Yeah, it's got to be great. That voice right there was one of my, not one, the other host. There's no, I'm hiding one in a box. Hold on, he'll be back out. No, that's my other host, Will Ellingworth, and I am Josh Swartz. We are both together, the hosts of the High Tech Podcast brought to you by Harness Tech. We are super excited to be jumping in for another week as we get going. Before we do that, though, just a couple reminders. Make sure you subscribe to the High Tech Podcast on all socials. We are either at High Tech Podcast or at High Tech Pod. You can find us. We tried to nail that together, but the internet's getting busy. Just like it was hard to find phone numbers back in the day. Now it's kind of hard to find social handles, I guess. I don't know, whatever. But make sure to subscribe. Go check that out. We are on all the socials now at this point. We used to say primarily Twitter and not Instagram. We used to say primarily Twitter and LinkedIn. But now you should be able to find us on Instagram, TikTok, all the fun stuff as well. We post extra stuff on top of the episodes there as well. So make sure to subscribe to us. If you're not already, wherever you like to listen to your podcast, make sure to subscribe to us there as well. It helps us out. It helps you out. It's a happy relationship. It's not a marriage. We're not proposing. We're not asking you to connect. Okay. I didn't say marriage isn't a happy relationship. I was just meaning, I feel like that might be a little intense for the listener, Will, we haven't been together for a while. I don't know. Maybe some of us have, but you and I are both already married.
Have been around for 154 episodes plus. So
I mean, I guess that's true, but we're already married, and we don't go that direction. So anyway, there's a whole thing. You brought me there. I was just trying to. I was just moving on. Okay, make sure to subscribe to the podcast, and we promise we won't say that again. That's it. And we won't do that again if you subscribe. Whoever you are listening right at this exact moment, and that's what you need to do. So go check us out. Also, you can email us at inbox@hightechpod.us as well. If you'd like to get a hold of us, you want to be on the podcast, you want to tell us that we said something stupid like just a second ago, you can email us at inbox@hightechpod.us to hit us up. We love talking to you and chatting with people. And then check out our website, hightechpod.us as well. You can get lots of fun information on each episode page, as well as some other stuff happening in the podcast life. Okay, there's the spiel. Yeah. There's all the stuff. Okay, if you don't want us to keep doing that at the beginning of every episode, then subscribe. It's that simple. Okay, there we go.
Don't make promises, Josh.
Hold on. Shh. Politicians lie all the time. So we can too.
And you know why I'm not in politics, Josh? Come on, man.
What? Because you're busy?
Well,
no, I mean, yeah, there's partially that as well. Anyway, this week on the High Tech Podcast, we are excited. We're going to be talking about why isn't technology making us more productive? As we've been talking a bit more about topics we wanted to jump into and the new face of the podcast, if you will, the new look, the new spruced up vibe. One of the first topics we wanted to talk about was productivity and a little bit about like what Will and I do in our lives, but just what we've learned over the couple decades we've been doing what we've been doing, and what we've seen and what's helped us and what hasn't. But to do that, I think we have to ask the first question. We live in this incredible technology world. We live where there's so many productivity tools. It's become an entire business on its own that feeds up my YouTube videos. Like, I swear, I'm sorry, Monday, if I have to get one more Monday.com advertisement from some slightly Swedish person telling me how their entire business has changed because of you, it's not working. But
the irony of calling their product Monday is like, I already hated Mondays, and now you've got annoying ads. Sorry, like, I'm out. You lost me. You should have gone for Tuesday. You're slightly better than Monday, but you picked Monday instead of
or
Tuesday.
Friday, and you could have gotten that song. It's
well,
Friday,
that would have been
Friday, Friday.
That would have made two people in this world happy, both Carly Rae Jepsen and Monday. But no, if they picked Friday, then it would have been like this false advertising, like, oh my god, this is so amazing. Like, it might be amazing, but it's not. It's not Friday.
Yeah, but your app gets you to Friday. You know, I don't know why is technology not making us productive? Move to Will and I trying to repackage Monday.com, you know, because they clearly wanted us to
call. Yeah. We've got you.
Give us a call. We got your new marketing figured out. It's going to be fantastic. No, Will, let's start with you. What are your thoughts? Why isn't technology making us more productive, or is it? Is this a false starter of a question?
All right, back in my day, no, I'm gonna do a quick bit of history just to say, like, we look at things like technology making the world more productive when you go to things like assembly lines and the booming of the industrial age and internet creating like email, like think about the scope of productivity when we had to send a letter to accomplish work. And even once you got the fax machine, that changed things from sending letters, and then email after fax, right? Like, this idea of productivity is, yes, I do believe we are becoming, as a society, culturally, as an economy, more productive. But is it making you, Josh, and me, Will, more productive? And our listeners, our friends, right? Is Robin, is Justin, is Christy, our Steve more productive? And I think the answer to that is not always, and not necessarily because of the technology. I know, I know myself, right? I think I'm going to be the butt of this joke for this series of episodes.
You can be a butt sometimes. It's fine.
The role of butt, yes.
Okay. Butt is now your role, Sir Butter, sir.
Sir Butt has taken the stage. Exactly. Yes. Sir Butt is, anyways.
Buttress.
That's different, but also I'm loving this wordplay. It's actually a lot of fun.
It's fun.
No, Josh, you built our Notion everything for us, right? You built the Notion for the podcast. Yeah. You built the Notion for
or
the business,
I got somebody to do it, told you that, and lied to you. You'll never know, but it's one of those two options.
If you've got a little like gremlin in the back running things for you, I'll be
His name is Butt.
Yeah. No, he pronounces it Butte. Okay, thank you.
Oh,
Butte.
Sorry. Yeah, that's right. He always tells me.
But I use like the software we've got as much as you've built the system, right? Like, I have not, and it's not an indictment of Josh, right? I am not really into I'm not really into the system building. Like, I don't know how it all got made and what's behind it. And like when I think about my productivity management and my productivity work, I've usually just used this notebook, which might make Josh cringe, but thankfully, Harness Tech isn't in this notebook. Harness Tech is on that screen in Notion. This has been like professional stuff, goals, certain like personal things. But I haven't really made myself more productive. I'm following Josh's systems, which he has taken my feedback. I'm not, come on, it's not me pointing the finger at you, but like, I wouldn't say that tech made me more productive. I have taken on the systems that we use to make our business run. And when I think about like my day job, daytime work, like, dude, my inbox is my task list. I will fully admit I am going to be the target of this 5
That episode's going to be rough
series.
for you. That one's going to be tough.
Yeah, but woo. But I am pretty productive. I think where I make up for the systems is like hyperactivity. I think I'm just like so on, and this is not tooting my horn, like, because I don't have effective systems to manage myself, I just operate at 110% all the time and live with a high level of anxiety. I am the subject for our episodes. Now, I do use certain systems. There's certain things that I make up for it, but overall,
I guess I asked this question because I just see a lot of people who it's the classic, like, I'm going to be more productive now, and they go find like some tool, or it doesn't necessarily, when I'm saying tool, it doesn't have to be an app. It can be literally like I buy a planner. There's a reason why like planner sales go up around like Lent, people making New Year's decisions, or like the new school year. They're like, I shall be different this year. This calendar shall be what I use. Boom. And they like do it for like a week or two, and then it like falls apart. There's in most cases, not in all cases, but in a lot of cases, I see it all the time in the work world. The amount of people who are like, I got this app for the first time. I got Trello now. I have Microsoft Planner. I have this, and like it's gonna change their life, and then like nothing happens.
Nothing changes.
Nothing changes. They go back to their old patterns. They go back to what they used to do. They go back to their email being their task list. Oh,
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry, buddy. I love you. I'm so sorry.
It hurts a little bit. It's okay. They go back to these things, and this story for me is interesting because it's a story of mine, right? Like, so I was not always this way. I was not always broken. I was organized, but like my old system used to be like, do you remember Evernote back in the day?
Yeah.
They're still around, barely, after multiple mergers and an identity crisis. I'm not entirely sure what they're doing now, but it's not what everybody else is. But Evernote back then, I used to have like a week table in like a notes thing, and I would have like tasks laid out and things, and I would get stuff done, right? But like, I missed stuff a lot. There was stuff that would fall through cracks. There was things that like I didn't account for. I didn't really know what to do when I didn't get done with something for the week. Like, what happens there? I wasn't doing a great job at like keeping myself from going from a week that was like dead to a week that was like insane, right? Like you've had that where it's like the week's not great, there's not a lot to do, and then all of a sudden this week's like crazy, right? And
that anxiety goes up with
anxiety goes up.
We see this. Like, how am I going to get it done? How am I going to get it done?
Yeah, we see this happen with a lot of different people. I had a lot of these experiences when I went into the job that I was in that I just recently left. Things had to change. I was overseeing a lot of stuff. There was a lot of responsibility being put on me. Excuse me for a second. We'll hum.
Hum dum 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 dum. He's taking a drink, folks. No, we're good.
Yeah. Thank you. So like I needed to change things, and I remember like adopting different tools. I did Microsoft Planner for a little bit. I did a handful of things.
My condolences.
And it was not great. I did Wunderlist back when that was still a thing.
Yes, I know whose influence that was.
Yes, I did like to-dos not in my email, but I used the to-do tool in Microsoft's like connected to your email to like do stuff. None of them worked well. Stuff was still getting lost. It was not working. The things that like really changed it for me was when I started to find this guy talking about, and it happened to be connected into Notion, which is part of what got me so heavy into Notion, but it was more than that. It was the guy's name who started it always leaves me, and I should research it before I start talking about it. But it was this para method I've talked about before, which was like taking a look at your life in areas, resources, projects, and archive is the other A, but it's basically for like archiving things. It was like a system for kind of like managing and looking at your life, right? And within that was like definitions for productivity. Like they talked a bit about like what does it even mean to be productive? Like, because one of the reasons I would argue, like, I'm not sure technology in general is making our world more productive, is what does productivity actually mean? Does it mean getting a lot done? I would argue it doesn't actually mean getting a lot done. It means getting the right things done. It means getting the important things done. And if that's the definition of productivity, then our world still has a lot farther to go. Because we get a lot of wasteful crap done that we don't need to get done. And like, so looking at productivity as a way to go, productivity is about how I steward and use my skills and my time to do the right things, both for my family, for my work, for what I'm going to do. Right. And so like what changed everything for me was not a tool, but it was a new look at what I was aiming for, and then a system that I could follow on a regular basis. I don't know if that's making sense or if that lines up with some of the stuff you've seen.
No, that makes sense. And what I like about that is, like you said, you've kind of fallen down the same hole as the rest of us. Like, oh, let me try a planner. Let me try, you're running through those things. But what we what we know, and your question there is poignant, like getting stuff done. There's tons of people that get stuff done. I still know of real full-time employees whose jobs are practically to seal envelopes and print stuff. They get a lot done in a week, right? Like they print a lot of pieces of paper, they seal a lot of envelopes. Is that valuable work? Is that beneficial? Could we eliminate that paper and those paper tasks and that physical manipulation by going digital with tools like DocuSign, Adobe Sign, etc.? You know, that'd be great. Like to become more productive by taking that person who's wasting time with a task that is less efficient, is less useful, is less meaningful, has greater negative impacts on the world through use of materials we don't need to be using, and make that person productive by like, hey, here's the 3 things I need you to do in a week, but these 3 things are going to elevate the entire business. You know, and maybe eventually we lose that full-time person, but like this is the tricky bit of productivity because we have a lot of people who look busy. And I'll tell you, that was the biggest curse. I think that is still the biggest curse of the physical office. Let's get everybody back to the office so we can see them doing stuff. I will admit, day in and day out, the days that I worked in an office, there are plenty of times where I sat there with my back to somebody, just hoping nobody looked around my screen to see Words with Friends, Sudoku, just staring at my inbox doing nothing. Like that I wasn't being any more productive. Just because I'm sitting there in the office doesn't make me more productive. Tackling those most important things and actually producing effective work, that's tricky, and that's a very good thing to seek it for. I'm personally, like, our work through Harness Tech has really brought that forwards for me, where it's like, okay, we need to get this project over the line. Are there 3 or 4 or 5 little tasks I need to accomplish, or is there a big thing that's going to move us forwards by taking one step altogether? Sometimes that one step is comprised of 3 or 4 little things. Josh's systems help us keep the 3 or 4 little things in line and not forgotten. But sometimes it's easier for me to like step up and be like, you know what, that's the thing to get done. The big thing is something I can accomplish. I don't need to see it as the 5 little components. I need to get the work done and jump in.
Yeah. I think it comes down to like how we view our productivity and what that is to us and a system that we pick. And those don't all have to be the same thing. Like I tell this to people all the time as I'm talking to people about things. I've seen digital classes on this and leadership people speaking on this and things, and they have like their system, and it's always like, this is the system that will save you. My favorite is always the people who are like, do you know that like all entrepreneurs do this one same thing? And it's usually like they wake up at 6 o'clock and they eat an egg, you know, like
I got one of those emails in my newsletter, like a new email newsletter, like this is the $250,000 mistake I made. Here's how to avoid it. Like, it's clickbait, folks. It's just clickbait. Yes, maybe that happened to that real person, but you can't reproduce spontaneous experiences. You know, like you can't just save yourself $250,000 by reading his newsletter or getting up at 6 a.m. and eating 2 eggs raw.
There's also no perfect system, right, of what you do. Right. There's going to be falling spots and things that don't work quite the same way. But the best advice I got when I was embarking on this was, if you want to go down this route, find a system that works for you and then stick to that system, like hold to that system as best you can. And that will help you through even the times where things aren't working out, right? Or not going the way they are. Because again, productivity is not about just getting everything done. It's about using the time and space that you have to get the right best things done first, right? Like that's to me the most important thing. So that might mean some weeks I'm knocking out a bunch of stuff, right? Like I do pride myself on being a guy who hits deadlines and is organized and knows what he's doing when it comes to this space. That's because I'm a prideful, selfish person as well. And it's a game to me sometimes, but there are also weeks where things don't go well. Like we were just joking about this. I was just sick, right? Like what do you think I did? I woke up at 6 a.m. and was still getting everything done. No, I was not really sleeping. So I was up at 6 a.m., but I wasn't getting anything done. I was sick and not doing well, right? Like, so that week fell apart. Like everything did not get done the way they wanted to. Now I had people who plugged in, Will being one of them, who helped get some stuff done on our end for Harness Tech and the podcast that needed done last week. But there's a lot of stuff that still just didn't get done or had to change. And even this week that I'm in right now, things have really had to change. But the system that I chose to go to is where it comes into play, right? Like, so like, for instance, my system in the whole para method, a part of it is now some people will do this differently, but I do like morning checks and weekly checks of what I'm going to be doing, kind of just planning out my week and what I'm doing. And this looks different for a lot of people, but for myself, just there was a temptation coming in a week after being a week gone of just being like, I can't do that. I need to immediately get into something that I'm going to be doing. But here's the danger of doing that. People who tend to do that tend to go and jump immediately into whatever seems to be the easiest thing to get done, right? So that thing might not be the right thing to do. It might not be the best thing to do in this moment, right? So you end up doing something that might not be the most useful or might not be the best. And this is why people often get a lot of easy, small things done, but the big things kind of just like sit there in the background because they're harder to embark on. Right. And so like this daily check thing has been some part of my life that I've been doing. And where it comes super in handy after being sick is being able to sit down and go, okay, what didn't get done? What still was supposed to be getting done this week? What can I do versus can't? And what is not as important anymore today than it was a day ago? And can things be cut, right? And like taking inventory of both my day and my week to figure things out. And it took quite a while this time, I have to admit. Because it's been a bit of a crazy period recently, but I was able to do that and get some calm and control over my life and go, okay, these are the two biggest things I need to get done today. So I'm going to prioritize those. They're going to go into these blocks in my life for today. I'm going to jump into those, right? And so I've been able to jump into those. So there's maybe some other stuff that I wanted to get done that I didn't get done that day, but I got the two biggest, most important things done that my colleagues needed to have done and I needed to have done, right? And so that was a big thing for me. I don't know, Will, do you do something similar in kind of your system when you're jumping in?
Well, I'm really thankful you brought it around to this because you're actually making me feel a little bit better about myself. Like even in your prompt for this episode, you know, what is the system you're using to be productive? And some of us might point to a tool, might point to Monday, etc. But it's like, don't get lost in that. My system, and I kind of already said it, but I'll hash it out a little bit more. Like my system is to do everything as quickly as possible. Now it's not a great system, but like if I get 10 emails into my inbox, that first email that gets in, I just do it. I don't wait. And this is my system, right? I try not to let things sit, let things build, let things get past me. Like if someone needs something of me, I take care of it. Now, I advocate for Josh's system where he's prioritizing the work. I can do that. I do that, but like I'm very happy to like look at that 5-minute task and just get it done. And I just could get it and move on to the next thing. But like that's why my inbox operates as my task manager because it's chronological. If I get something in, I do it. If I can't, I'm really good. I think some of my professional experience in customer service helped me. Like, if I can't do it, I need to email and reply, say why, when, what, or I need to email, reply, and get the other person who can do it involved. So it's not like anything ever gets to my desk and sits. It gets to my desk, I do it, I triage, I respond, right? So those are definitely, there's definitely ways I think I could prioritize the work itself better. But I've had a kind of a professional benefit, career benefit of having space to do my work. The work that I do isn't customer service in the sense that I have to have something done by Friday every week, or I have to meet a quota, or I haven't been in higher education now for over 3 years, right? So I'm not even trying to hit a semester timeline, right? In corporate, in my experience so far, deadlines are very flexible. There's like 2 or 3 deadlines I work with on an annual basis that cannot move. And I meet those because I have plenty of time to plan for those immovable deadlines. But that's kind of why I think my system has let me survive. But I will say I struggle with my system and anxiety. I get really caught when there is a week that has competing priorities in getting it all done. And I get a little more manic. It gets harder to get through the day. I might need to step away from my desk more, or I'm like, I have the benefit, like I will go to my co-working facility. So like if I'm having a stressful morning, I'll eat my lunch and I'll go down to my co-working facility, and it just changes the environment. Everything gives me a little more time to breathe, give me a little more, there's more people to interrupt you, whatever it is, right? Like it just feels less stressful, but that doesn't make that anxiety actually go away. It just helps me manage the anxiety until I can accomplish the competing priorities. Because that's to me where the anxiety comes in. Is I have two priority items. Two things should be number one. Well, how do I get both done? I can't. So and then it gets into that stuff of trying to balance the timing and things like that.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you and I have different personalities in that space. Where now right. I would argue, maybe when I asked the question, with that type of system and things, are there important things you think, not that people are telling you to do, but you think you should be doing that you never end up getting to?
Oh, I mean, stab me in the heart. There's like 5 projects I want to do that I've never done because right? there's some like culture authority issues, but if I just stepped up and did them, I could do them. You know, like if I don't know if I'd step on any toes in my day job, if I piss people off or not, but like I could do some of these big projects I want to do if I just made the system, made the schedule, and got it done. I don't need anybody's help to do some of the projects. It's more been a culture barrier where it's not been asked for or accepted yet.
Yeah, hasn't been asked for or requested yet. Okay, I'm just curious. That's my one devilish plug to go because I've become more and more adamant over the years of like what does it look like to level in productivity? What does it look like to level both, yes, helping people, but also not always being on demand when people are like asking requests? Because often I think that space is great, but you're often then driven by the needs of everybody else but what you see as being important stuff in the field that you work in and know as well, right? So like the allowing for space for like the way I think I started doing that over the years is blocking. Like we'll talk about time blocking and stuff later, but like part of my system, there's time blocking involved, and like time blocking when I'm going to respond to people versus when I'm working on like project work and work that is not related. I know you do some of that. That's not that you're not doing that, but like, what does it look like? Again, this all comes down to how you set up your day today and your life. It's not about the new next technology. It's not about if you just get like, as Monday will advertise. I keep picking on them because they're one of the big names, but like Monday will keep. If you just get Monday, your business will be more organized. That's incorrect. It is not inconsequential. It is just wrong. It's not correct. Yeah. Those tools just add another layer of complexity onto what you're doing. Now, I'm not saying they're not great and they don't do good stuff. They do, but you have to have a system for yourself or for your business first before those things start to become useful, because you're not going to stick to them. They'll just end up becoming another thing that everybody's kind of using in the background of whatever you're doing.
Not only the system, but the people powering and standing by it and holding everybody accountable to it. My day job has at times had 3 or 4 different project management softwares active in the business, and people still miss each other's deadlines. We're consolidating slowly to potentially 1 or 2, but like I know teams who are using it and it's barely helping them. It's not helping them because there's no champion, there's no central system even within it. Like all these tools, Asana, Jira, Trello, Monday, Basecamp, et cetera. They all have,
don't put Basecamp in the group. Yeah, that's.
But I mean, correct me if I'm wrong with this statement. They all have some project level, some bigger bucket, and they all have tasks and they all have due dates, right? Yeah. And if somebody's going to drive and say the business needs to get stuff done on time, you need projects, tasks, and due dates. And that's, if everyone's got one of these tools, like the question of this episode, why isn't it working? Why, if all of these businesses, if all these teams, if everyone's got an Asana, a Monday, a Basecamp, or whatever, why aren't we more productive? What are we missing? Because we have the things we need. We can make projects, we can put tasks in them, we can give them deadlines. It's this system, and then the people to follow through, train. And I think we need to take back the title Taskmaster. I think it's a good thing. I don't think people need to get so upset about it, because like a taskmaster is someone who understands not only the people to do the work, but the work to be done, and makes the correct associations, right? It is someone who assigns the tasks and says, get the tasks done. You can call it a manager, you can just call it project manager, you can do whatever you want to, but like we kind of usually, so-and-so's a task manager. Yeah, because they're good at getting tasks done and making the work effective. Now, like Josh's point, it's not just getting 100 tasks done, it's getting one correct task done. It's getting the
right thing done.
But even if you prioritized your correct 5 tasks, if you don't have someone who's good at managing the tasks, you'll still fail. I have a team that's great at meeting deadlines. No one can get the project together. There's no project organization, and so we still aren't as
you still muddle through things. Yeah, I've seen that plenty of times. I mean, it's like the team that I've been a part of for the longest time. The thing that I think makes us so different is that we do have people like myself and a few other people who are organized about how we put together projects, so that like it's not just clear what's happening, but what's most important, what isn't, what we're starting with, who's doing what, all of those things, bringing team people together. And a team productivity and project management is not the same as personal productivity, which you're not saying that, but I think the world often can confuse the two as being like, well, I'm really productive myself, I'm going to be a great project manager. Well, that's not entirely about what this is about, right? They're two different things. They're two muscles that you use that look a bit different. But yeah, at the end of the day, again, I think what we're trying to get to is this all comes down to what type of system do you pick? What type of system do you use, and stick to that? That's the starting point. If you want to get more productive, better getting things done, figure out what is your system for handling things, processing things, dealing with emails, dealing with the tasks that you have. Do you have a system in mind for how you do all of this, and a philosophy that drives all of that? If you don't, then that's part of the problem. The idleness, the not knowing. I know I'm a type A person, so some of my creatives are going to hate me about this. But darn it, creativity happens best in a box. I don't care who says that it doesn't. It's ridiculous. It's this idea that if I just had open creativity with unlimited time, I would do my best work. Really? The people that I've seen who have that end up sitting in their basement for most of their life. Like, that's not, I'm sorry. Like, it's a different component to how we do things. So whether you're in school or what you're doing or at work or whatever you're looking to do, I think the first thing is to try to figure out, okay, philosophically, system wise, what's the thing you're going to pick to do? What's going to drive how you do what you do and why? Yeah. And that helps then drive the rest. Right. And I think that gets to what a little bit of, I think what both of us are getting to. If that's Para, you can research that more. That's a system that I live and die by in many ways across how we do it. I've built it into some of the essence of Hardest Tech because Will, like he said, doesn't like building the system, so I get to have fun with that part. But I'm
good at following a system. I like systems.
So Para for me is just a thing that it transformed how I did my work to the point of like having a boss who was very much like into self-productivity several years later, basically telling me that I had surpassed him in many ways in what it looked like to organize and like be on top of things. And that was because of this method and just kind of what I adopted behind it and how it kind of drove for me. So Like if you're just looking for something, you don't know what you're looking for, I highly recommend Para. I think it's a good starting place in these areas. And there's a lot of different ways that you can play with that. For example, we could show a little bit here, I think, before we start jumping to some other stuff. Is kind of like what my system looks like. We're going to be showing a lot of different stuff. So for those who don't know, the High Tech Podcast is an affiliate. Technically, Harness Tech is an affiliate, but the High Tech Podcast through that is an affiliate of Notion. We've talked about Notion on the podcast a bunch of times, specifically myself. Will reluctantly and less reluctantly over the years as he comes
I love
to
it
love it
too.
more.
I just don't know it as well.
It's fine. You have a life outside of Notion. But so we're an affiliate of Notion. And so because of that, we have some stuff through it. But we wanted to share some things. And one of those is some of how we personally use Notion. So I think, Will, to give my voice a little bit of a break before I jump into our stuff, why don't you talk a little bit about what we do with the podcast? And then I'll jump into kind of some of my things.
Yeah, let's hit it. So, folks, this is the podcast dashboard, and this is how Josh introduced me to Notion. This is how I have kind of dug my teeth in a little bit over time. But also for the last 3 years, this is how we've run the podcast. It's just a bit of a dashboard. It's not anything critical, or I don't think this is revolutionary, but as we scroll down through, you start to see some of these top kind of areas we manage things in. So here's the website, so notes and resources, the live pages on our website, how we're managing like the social media now that we have Chris on board, our social media manager, some basic quick links and stuff. But then, besides quick navigation, we have our episode outline. And this is a Kanban board. I love Kanban. The idea that you can just kind of put stuff in left to right, drag and drop, right? So we are literally recording episode 154 right now. Tonight, that'll move over to editing, where it'll sit for me on tasks, and then I'll take it over from editing into drafting page design, where Josh takes care of it. And then I'll drop it into Oblivion, and it'll disappear, which is lots of fun. But I can Control Z and bring it right back. Thank you, Notion. All together as well, like adding in different areas into the single dashboard of episode ideas, conversation ideas, general ideas. We've pulled together a lot of information in this dashboard over time, where we're able to search everything at any moment. We're able to pull up who's doing what, whether it's editing, it's drafting, if it needs to go live, it needs to get posted. This workflow is going to expand shortly as we get better with our social media manager and getting our posts aligned to episode launches and things like that, all while being fun, beautiful, branded in this wonderful block-based system where you can click and drag anything around. Like, it's easy for me, it's beautiful, it's effective. I don't have any more complaints or ideas.
Yeah, you want to scroll down to the Kanban real quick in there. Obviously, Notion has a bunch of different things, but I want to talk about Kanban board for just a quick second and what it's most useful for. Like, if you're looking for a way to visualize what you're doing or how you're doing it, Kanban boards are all meant to, while they're pretty and lots of people like them and they see them in Trello and they go, this is what I'm meant for, their core are designed to show you what like the stages are in your workflow for doing something, right? And so a Kanban can give you that visual appeal. I've used Kanbans before at a personal level for like tasks or projects, just to kind of see where everything is at in a certain stage. Maybe I have, an inbox in my Kanban of tasks. Like, I'm not quite sure what I'm going to do with them yet. So I have an inbox column that they just kind of go in there, and I have a regular cadence each day where I figure out, okay, are these going to keep happening? Are they something that I need to do now? Are they a do later thing? And they go into a column that kind of vanishes for a little while, or are they, I need to do this right now? And then it has a done column. So like there's lots of ways to leverage Kanban for yourself to organize. But again, note, Kanban is a technique usually paired with a tool. But at the core, it's how you leverage that tool. It's the system behind it. It's about, because I've seen people set up a bunch of Kanbans that end up becoming useless because they don't represent the workflow that you're doing anymore. So if that's your workflow for taking in things, a new email comes in and your workflow is going, I'm going to, inbox that for a second and then I'll come back to it and then I got to figure out what I'm going to do with it. a Kanban is a good system to start doing stuff like that for yourself and keep track of things, or for teams. I love Kanbans for teams. I think they really help show the workflow to the whole team and where things are at a given point. We've used Kanbans a lot on different projects to kind of help people see where things are at. Will and I are using it with a client right now to show where tutorials are at through a whole workflow. And I think, Will, you would agree, the second we switched to that model, it started working just a lot better with the whole team, because the whole team started to really understand what the larger workflow was and where things were getting caught up in the workflow as things weren't going well.
Yeah. Kanban is great for the life cycle of a task. So our Kanban is an episode. Every single one of these things is an episode, right? So we are moving an episode through its life cycle. It's really easy to see when it's done. It's really easy to see when it needs to get done, right? It's just a quick, like, oh crap, we have a whole bunch of episodes here. What's going on? Oh, they're in the no episode status. We haven't decided when they're being recorded, maybe what the full topic is, who's involved, right? Like, we have some of that figured out here, so it just hasn't come over into development recording yet, right? But like, if we had that kind of inbox, like Josh is saying, it's just a step for us to put things that need to get organized. That could be tickets. That could be tutorials. That could be courses. That could be anything, right? Whatever your task, your kind of consistent thing is. I don't know, Josh, do you have a saying here as to whether or not folks should mix and match, right? Should this be both a ticket list and our list of episodes? I think you might want to keep a Kanban board specific to the type.
Generally, you want to keep a Kanban board specific to something. Because when you start to mix and match, I've done this before out of like fun desire to want to use boards for more things, right? Kanban boards generally, from a project management standpoint, they want to have the same type of thing in it, because it's all about workflow management. It's all about looking at how things go from one spot to the next and to the end. It's very much so when you start to mix different things, workflows don't always work quite as well.
Right.
And that's not to say you can't mix different types of tasks or different types of things you're doing. That's going to have to happen. But if you have a Kanban board where it's like tasks, but also projects inside, that those two things are going to mesh as well, because they're not quite the same thing. And tickets, maybe it depends on what that looks like for yourself. I think you have to kind of start to play with things and feel out what works, as long as you've got a system behind it that's driving it. It's when people, I think, go to the tool or the board right away and they just start setting things up, that things tend to go awry. It's when they know, this is for me to track these three things, I'm going to try this first. You might find all the different columns you set up might not work, so you can adapt it later. That's totally fine. But it's all about that. Again, what are you trying to do? What is the core non-tool agnostic thing that you're trying to do that then you need to build into whatever you're coming up with?
Quick example of a time where Kanban didn't work for something I was doing. So there was a moment where Marissa and I were trying to use Trello to kind of organize our lives a little bit better. So that was kind of easy to put on things like a house project, like paint the dining room or something. Okay, like, have we started it? Do we have the materials we need? Whatever. It could have a life. But then we put on things like, mow the lawn. Okay, was the lawn mowed this week? Great, but that's recurring. So it's like, did mow the lawn week 1 become a ticket, and mow the lawn week 3 became a ticket? And then groceries. You need to get groceries every week. And it's like, well, I don't want to move a groceries task through every week. Well, I don't want to just make one groceries task that sits in the inbox. Like, there are certain kinds of things that need to have their own life cycle. They need to be determined if it's going to be week 1, week 2, week 3 that we do this task over time, even though it's the same task. Or something like the groceries needs to go somewhere else. It's not working, depending on the system of how you do your grocery shopping, right? Maybe every week we need to plan the groceries. We need to pick the meals, plan the groceries, decide when the groceries are being purchased and where, and then purchase them. That could be the life cycle, but it's almost like that is the Kanban board. And that doesn't fit well next to the honey-do list of paint the living room and mow the lawn. This is an example, I think, like a very simple thing, but like, you have to pick your system, and it may not work with existing systems or other systems that you're trying to build.
Yeah. Well, it kind of sounds like you needed like an areas spot in your life that covered
grocery
bigger area. It's like a grocery area that has a board of its own, and then a projects area for all those projects that you're looking to do.
Do you have a groceries area?
I don't have a groceries area. That's not we're not nearly as organized as you guys are with groceries because we don't care to be, but I have like a family personal area that covers a whole broad spectrum of things for myself. But if I was as organized as you guys with groceries, I'd have a groceries area. It would have a plant emoji somewhere. Like there's 100%. It would exist if I was as nearly as organized as you guys are about the grocery shopping.
So that's a bit of the high tech podcast. I don't know. You anything else to point out here?
Not in the high tech podcast. I'll show some of my stuff here, and this stuff will keep coming up throughout the series. We're doing this for 5 episodes, and we're very much talking a lot about different topics around productivity and management and kind of what you're doing, but then showing a little bit of just some stuff. Some exciting stuff Will and I are doing for himself in Notion that will come up later in the season. But let's talk about myself here for a second. So, what I have for us is I'm going to start with my, things that make total sense. Okay.
This is just waiting music. That's all, Yeah, so Josh is pulling up Notion, and
here we go. There we go. Okay, so folks, this is called my dashboard. Okay, so there's a lot of stuff going on here. Ignore the AI generated king at the top. There's some different stuff. So this works for me. I like boards and timelines just as much as the next guy. But at the time with Notion, they didn't have like this home feature that they have now, which I'm glad they didn't, because I'm not sure I would have used it quite this way. I had a very niche need for my dashboard. I wanted a system that would remind me of tasks that were coming up in the next day or two, but other things I labeled as a priority. So that's what this dashboard does. This is what I use on a day-to-day basis as a task thing. Right now, there's nothing in it because we're near the end of the day at the High Tech Podcast. I have 2 things I want to either get done tonight or we'll probably get moved to tomorrow night. But there's some stuff that popped up here. Like I talk about, I do time blocks. So part of my system is time blocking. So I have this is what my time blocks look like. They'll have the different tasks in, and just a real quick summary and kind of idea is when I start my day, I'll come into here. And this is all, let me zoom in here for a second. This is all organized, like I said, by areas, projects, and then resources, right? So areas is an area of my life that's ongoing. So if I was Will, groceries would be one of those things. I am not, so that is not one of those, but they're areas in my work and my personal life, right, that are there. Projects are initiatives with specific start and end dates, right? At work, this is a project that you're working on. This is something that starts and is done in a certain period of time with a specific goal. At home, it might be a home project. Maybe you're redoing your living room. That's a project. That's not something that you're always doing. If you're always redoing your living room, we need to talk. I don't know what the heck you're getting paid, but it's a lot more than Will and I. But some projects are more confined, and then resources connects into all of these different areas, and it's basically just notes and things I don't want to forget. I call it my second brain. It's if I need to remember something, I can search it, right? So this para system is built deeply into what I use. It's what I use is super helpful for me as a tool, but the important part is there's a system behind it. And for me, it's para. It's this idea of there are areas of my life, projects that I do, and then I want to remember resources and things. And there's stuff that I don't want to remember, and they go to the archives with my small old man emoji. So they will get archived. Yes, they'll get archived down in here. And if you clicked in here, it would show you every project and task that's ever been done since 2020 when I first adopted this model. And some canceled things, apparently an untitled page I never deleted. So
wow,
that's the general vibe of what I've built here. But what I'll do on a daily basis is Will hates this because he's not nearly as big of a fan of timelines as I am. This does not have to be done with timelines. But I will click on my timeline and I will look through here and go to the day I'm in. So I'm at today. And I'll take a look at what I've got going on. Now I have a lot of stuff in my timeline because I track a lot of things. I have a lot of stuff going on. But I will look through my day. I'll look at what is stuff that's literally due that day. There's nothing at this point, but you can see here, like I've got some stuff in here that needs done. I've got stuff that's needs done over periods of time. And then I'm looking at what is stuff that needs to be a priority for me. And whatever needs to be a priority gets, labeled priority in Notion, and gets thrown up to the top, right? I also have down here stuff that's in progress, and then stuff I've delegated out to people. Once you become a manager, you have to do that stuff. I used to never use this box for the first several years that I had the system. So I have this stuff all tracked in here. Now, I didn't go in and put all of this stuff in all at once. How this all worked is I had a system. I have areas, I have projects, right? And so as things would pop up in an area, I'd be in a meeting or something, and somebody would say something needs to be done. Oh, that's something I need done in my instructional technology area. And I have some quick shortcuts built in Notion that allow me to quickly throw a task in, and I don't think about it ever again until it's here, until it shows up where I need it at. And I can kind of time things and see how much I'm able to get done at any given point in a system like this, right? Now you can see I have a lot of stuff due on the 14th because that is when I'm done with my current job. So that will be an interesting Friday. But this allows me to time things out. I can usually figure out how much I can do. And as I'm putting things up, this number tallies up what's priority for that day, right? And so I've learned I can really only do about 15 things tops per day, depending on what it is and depending on how many meetings I have. It should be noted, meetings are also in here. Now, that's my system. People don't do that all the time. I need everything in one place. So meetings are all here for me. So as I do that, that all comes over here. And then the last thing I'll do is figure out where in my day things are going to go for that day. So maybe I get that done in the morning at 9:30, and I do hour breakups within that block. So I do all of that stuff. Now, some of this is a little bit extra anal for sure. I will acknowledge that, but there's a system behind this for me that helps me. This has been my key weapon in my life for being productive, is holding to the system when it seems ridiculous, when it seems like it's taking extra time, because it's allowed me to always know every day the feeling I have when I finally gotten stuff organized after 30, because this usually now takes me 30 minutes in the morning to do stuff, is being able to just see what I have for that day makes things much better as I know what I'm going to be doing that day, right? And then things will come in and impact the day. And if it does, maybe I'm at 9:30 to 11:30 and we're down to 11:30 and something happens and I get to be able to look down and go, okay, what's going to die today in this box to allow time and space for this? Can I do it? And find that area, and I move it off that task board for the day. Depending on how serious of a task it is, it might get deleted. I have deleted plenty of things from the entity that is Josh's time space. So all of that's being driven by these these pages within the dashboard. My areas in here that all have different spaces going on. I do have a D&D area that I will not be ashamed of. Amazing. We have all of that, and all of these have tasks. I'm not going to go into all of that stuff right now, but all that stuff drives that board that I was showing you before. Same with projects. I have several different projects running up here, and those all drive different things happening from here. So that's my system that helps drive some stuff. It's a bit extreme in some ways. I know that, but it is something that didn't happen immediately. It was something that I got that para method. I got a template. I kind of ran with it for a while. And over time, I kept picking up ideas or techniques or things, small tweaks, and I would do them for the last 4 years, which has developed what's happened here. And I'm about to go to a new job, so I'm sure I will find different things I need to tweak for that new job, because this has very much worked for what I've been doing. But I'm sure in my new environment, I might need to tweak the way I do certain things or the flow I do stuff. So
crazy.
But again, it's a whole system behind all of that has driven a lot of that. And I think that's for both of us. I think we can acknowledge that is the big piece, right? So if you want to start getting more productive, figure out what system you want to start with before you start getting any kind of tools, building anything, even if it's Notion. I don't care how fast you will kill yourself with Notion if you go into Notion before you know what you want to do. It is 100%. Notion can become a very unproductive environment when you don't have a plan. That's my advice.
I love it. I mean, just for time's sake, I think we're gonna kind of cool down. We could keep debriefing and stuff, but folks, we've got 4 more episodes ahead of us on this Notion, if you will, series. It's not exclusively Notion, but we're gonna drive a lot of these conversations from what Josh has built in Notion and what we use, et cetera, et cetera. So this has been episode 154. Next episode, 155. We're gonna ask the question, or something like it, what essential types of tools do we need to be productive in a tech-heavy world? So we're looking at Notion. That's one of them. But are there other tools? Is it not just project management? Is it communication, et cetera, et cetera? We're going to dig into that next episode on the High Tech Podcast, right? I think we're good and ready for that episode next week. Right, Josh? Anything else?
Absolutely. Yeah, I would just say we're not necessarily going to look at exactly just the exact right like apps or tools at that point too yet. We're going to look at what are, I think, kind of categories or like tools in your toolbox you need, no matter whether they're on your desk or on your computer or whatever it may look like, to get you to where you need to be.
All right, folks, this is a wrap on another week. Empowering minds,
embracing tech. Cheers.